It's not looking good for Keir Starmer, as it seems he has been handed a hammer blow as control quickly slips away. Starmer has made the headlines a lot this week for his crazy communist views that he is imposing on our great country. In more ways than one, it's not going down too well with the rest of the UK. Hit the like and subscribe button. Let's discuss why Starmer has been handed a huge hammer blow, whilst also going over all the latest news from the country. Starmer has been branded dishonest for failing to disclose the Labour Party's tax plans during the general election, a new poll has revealed. More than half of voters, 56%, believe that Starmer's party was not very honest or not honest at all, totaling 24% and 31% respectively, when it came to revealing their tax policies. Just 6% said they believed that Labour had been very honest, while 28% said the party had been mostly honest, according to a BMG research poll, which surveyed 1,560 people. Starmer's party has repeatedly ruled out increases to income tax, national insurance and VAT. However, Chancellor Rachel Reeves is understood to be considering raising inheritance tax, IHT, capital gains, CGT, fuel tax and taxes on pensions. High net worth individuals, HNWIs, are believed to be in the firing line of this oncoming tax raid as Starmer and Reeves attempt to fill a £22 billion black hole in the public finances. The poll, commissioned by the newspaper, found that possible increases in fuel duty or raising inheritance tax could in fact hit workers and potentially breach Starmer's election promises, where he vowed not to raise taxes on working people. Almost 60% of voters view a rise in fuel duty as a tax on working people, and 43% believe that raising inheritance tax would amount to a tax on working people than do not, 35%. In a speech to the nation earlier this week, Starmer said that tax hikes and spending cuts will be introduced in just a matter of weeks, admitting that things are worse than we ever imagined, and that a painful budget in October was in the works. He explained Britons will have to accept short-term pain for long-term good, and said his government did not account for the huge hole in public finances before the election. Starmer said, "It's not the position I want to be in, but we have to end the politics of the easy answer that solves nothing. I said change would not happen overnight. When there is a deep rot at the heart of a structure, you can't just cover it up. You have to overhaul the entire thing, tackle it at root, even if it's hard work or takes more time." He pledged to make boosting wealth and growing the economy the #1 priority of this Labour government. The Prime Minister also insisted that his team has done more for the country in 7 weeks than the Conservatives managed in 7 years. Responding to the results of the poll, Councillor Matthew Goodwin Freeman said, "We warned you, as Rishi said, as night follows day, Labour will raise your taxes." In other news, after a 20-year hiatus, John Swinney has stepped back into the role of nationalist leader in time to address the 90th SNP National Conference in Edinburgh this weekend. His retaking of the reins comes after 12 testing months, which were somehow more difficult than the previous most disastrous year in 2022/2023. Scotland's 7th First Minister now stands at the head of a minority government, reaching out to a shrunken membership and represented in Westminster by a group of MPs diminished by 3/4. In August, it was revealed that somewhere in the region of 10,000 independent supporters have cancelled their memberships since the previous summer. While Mr Swinney was enjoying his one and only year of retirement from frontline politics, Police Scotland charged former SNP Chief Executive Peter Murrell with embezzlement in April, following the prolonged Operation Branchform investigation into missing party finances. A cascade of fallings out relating to gender ideology and green targets saw Humza Yousaf prematurely sever the power-sharing agreement with the Scottish Greens in a bid to prevent the tail wagging the dog, ultimately leading to his resignation, and John Swinney begrudgingly turning off his out of office. Even while the party continues to recover from Humza Yousaf's dramatic miscalculation, his strength of character in the eyes of the party is etched in stone, illustrated by the opening minutes of Deputy Leader Keith Brown's conference speech yesterday. "A lot has happened since we last gathered in Aberdeen," Keith Brown told the Edinburgh International Conference Centre, demonstrated the values of inclusion and international solidarity that this party prides itself on, and in particular, his passionate advocacy for peace in Gaza during what were times of unimaginable torment for him and his family. Quickly, Mr. Brown gave thanks to the party's departing MPs and addressed the damage wrought by July's election result. In the aftermath of the general election, he said, we have to make sure we understand in order for us to better prosecute the case for independence. We've shared significant challenges within our party over the last 12 to 18 months, and in July we had to bid farewell to too many dedicated ambassadors for independence. The snap election cost the SNP dearly, losing 39 seats in a 22% swing to Labour, and the 8 weeks since have been equally bruising. A grand total of 25 SNP MPs lost their seats, while 9 more stood down before the election. Scotland's governing party won't have to wait long for another opportunity at the ballot box, with the 2026 Scottish elections drawing closer. But a chance to reverse their fortune is an equal opportunity to seal their fate. Now we've got an election and independence to win, so we have to move forward, Keith Brown told the EICC delegates. We have to learn the lessons of the past, of course, but we also have to focus relentlessly on Scotland's future. Our opponents would have you believe that the SNP and the cause of independence are finished. They suggest it's time for us to pack up and go home. But the idea of independence has faced much bigger setbacks than this, he said, visibly affected by the air of disappointment in the room. Keith Brown went on to address the growing black hole in SNP public spending. He lambasted the press, calling out a trend among journalists to disallow the SNP government from pointing the finger of blame at Westminster. Unless, of course, you're Welsh Labour, he told members, then it's all roads lead to Westminster. But in Scotland, it must be the fault of the SNP. He continued, the clue is in the word consequentials. England decides what it needs to spend on public services, he said, and we get some money as a consequence, not because somebody has worked out what Scotland needs. So there is a consequence between Westminster underfunding, the power that we have here, and trying to fund proper public services. Keith Brown's attack on the Barnett consequentials comes after Cabinet Secretary for Finance, Shona Robertson, blamed Labour's continuation of Tory austerity for cuts to public services. But a report from the Scottish Fiscal Commission, SFC, suggests the Scottish Government's funding deficit is a financial prison of its own making. The report said, much of the pressure comes from the SNP's own decisions, citing paying £900 million more on benefits than the rest of the UK, and massively overshooting their budget planned for a 3% pay increase to public sector workers. Today, delegates will hear from Stephen Flynn, now leading a greatly diminished SNP presence in Westminster, before John Swinney takes to the stage on Sunday afternoon. Like and subscribe and join our fast-growing community. Take care, goodbye.